lot for that introduction. Thanks to the Gadsden Society for having me participate here today in this rally for personal freedom. This is unbelievably important as we watch the changes going on in the country around us. As Dave mentioned, I blog at my own site and many other sites, and for most of it, I don't get paid anything. I do it because I'm deeply concerned that my children, the youngest of whom I'm using as a prop today, are being consigned to a life that is less free, less prosperous, and less American than the life that I've known and the life that my parents known, and it concerns me greatly. In the past few years, both political parties have assaulted our liberty and our Constitution, and the pace of those attacks has only increased in recent months as a tsunami of economic fascism has crashed into our economy. And I do not use the term fascism as hyperbole. I am not intending to conjure up images of swastikas or jackboots. What I'm talking about is the initial fascist construct of government deep involvement in economy and government domination of business. It's a different approach than the socialist direct attack on private property, but it gets you to the same place. As Gerald Ford said, any government big enough to give you everything you want is strong enough to take everything you have. As long as I'm using my son as a prop, let me introduce him. Most people get introduced by their first names, but I'm going to just tell you today my son's middle name, which is Rand. For you world travelers out there, he is not named for the South African currency. In fact, I might just hand him off to Lenina so I can be hands-free for a moment. Rand is a name that puts a lot of pressure on someone to stand up for principles of liberty and limited government and the ability of an individual to make a difference. The Gadsden flag is a similar symbol. It represents the individualism, but not isolationism. It's a very different thing that has characterized America and made it great for not just 200 years, but at least 400 years. Now, of course, my son is not old enough to fight for himself, but I'm old enough to fight for him and my 3-year-old daughter and my future grandchildren and your children and grandchildren, whether or not you want my help. So I blog almost every day, but I do other things. I call into radio shows, I write letters to editors, I contact elected officials. Maybe most importantly, I speak with friends and friends of friends, not to support a political party, but to support principles of liberty, limited government, and free markets. And I want to emphasize, these are not academic concepts which lost their use after President Reagan left office. They've not been left in Marx's dustbin of history as much as so many of our more powerful politicians would enjoy that. These concepts deserve our energetic and full and continuous support because they deliver the most fulfilling, most prosperous, safest, healthiest, freest life that a person or nation can aspire to. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is what has made America the greatest country in history. And life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness has, contrary to our current First Lady's opinion, made me proud of this country since I was first old enough to understand the words. What I would not be proud of is, in 20 or 40 years, when my son looks up at me thinking back at this time in the history of America, this time in the history of Colorado, and asks me, "Dad, how could you let this happen?" If I can't honestly look him in the eye and say, "Son, I fought my heart out for you." So I urge you, get involved, support the Gadsden Society and other organizations that fight for your liberty. Don't forget, we're here on these Capitol steps for a reason, and as Senator Carroll made some very important points, it is not only the federal Congress in Washington, D.C., and maybe not even primarily the federal Congress that is attacking your liberty. You must pay attention to what's going on in your state. Make your voice heard. And one thing that I thought that I want to leave you with that most politicians and special interest groups don't want you to realize is that you have a lot more power than you believe. Thanks for listening.